there's a peace you haven't felt yet, not because it's out of reach, but because most of us have been looking for it in the wrong place without ever knowing it. And hidden in the very first line of Psalm 121 is the reason why. We light a candle, we turn off the noise, we tell ourselves that tomorrow will feel lighter, and for a little while it does. But then the quiet sets in, and something inside us is still searching, still unsettled, still waiting for a rest we haven't quite found. Tonight, we're going to look at something most people read past without ever noticing, a question hidden in this psalm that changes everything once you see it. And once you do, this psalm is going to read differently to you for the rest of your life. Welcome to Stillwater Grace. To understand that question, we have to go back to an old road leading up to Jerusalem, where a traveler once stopped and looked up at the hills ahead of him. For a moment, he didn't know if what waited up there was safety or danger. We'll come back to him, and we'll come back to exactly what he was looking at, because it matters more than it seems. For now, we simply come to God tonight the way he did on that road, tired, searching, and ready to be led somewhere safe. Wherever you are tonight, whatever the day handed you, you don't need to carry it one more hour on your own strength. You don't need to have already figured out what tomorrow holds. You don't need to feel calm before you come to him. You simply come exactly as tired and unsettled as you are, and let him meet you there. Maybe tonight was ordinary, the kind of day that blurs together with a dozen others. Nothing dramatic, just tired in the quiet, familiar way. Or maybe tonight carried something heavier than usual. A conversation that didn't go the way you hoped. A worry that's been sitting just beneath the surface for days now. A decision you still haven't made peace with. Either way, you're in the right place. Lord, we come to you tonight carrying everything the day left behind. We don't need to have the answers before we start. We only need you to meet us here, in this quiet room, the way you met every traveler who ever looked up and asked where their help would come from. Settle our hearts now. Prepare us to receive what you want to say to us tonight. Now, before we go further, let's be honest about why this matters tonight. Specifically, most of us have already looked for peace in a dozen different places by the time we reach the end of a day. We've looked for it in finishing the to-do list, hoping that once everything is checked off, our minds will finally settle. We've looked for it in distraction, a show, a scroll, anything to quiet the noise in our heads without actually facing it. We've looked for it in control, staying up late, trying to plan every possible outcome so nothing catches us off guard. We've even looked for it in exhaustion itself, hoping that if we just tire ourselves out enough, the thinking will finally stop on its own. None of those are bad things in themselves. But by the time our head hits the pillow, most of us already know none of them were quite enough. That's part of why you're here tonight. Something in you already suspects the answer isn't in any of the places you've already tried. This is going to move slowly tonight, and that's intentional. We're not rushing through a psalm to check a box. We're walking through it the way the traveler walked his road. One step, one line, one truth at a time, letting each one settle before moving to the next. The man who wrote this psalm knew something about looking up at circumstances that could go either way. Scholars believe Psalm 121 was one of the Songs of Ascent, a collection of 15 short psalms sung by pilgrims as they physically climbed the terrain toward Jerusalem for the great feasts, Passover, Pentecost, the Feast of Tabernacles. Under Jewish law, every household was expected to make this journey 3 times a year, and entire families would leave their homes in the lowlands together, parents and children, grandparents and neighbors, walking sometimes for several days up through hill country to reach the temple. Picture what that actually looked like. They didn't travel light. They carried food for the journey, water, offerings to bring for the feast, bedding for the nights spent along the road. Children walked beside parents or were carried when the terrain grew too steep for small legs. Entire villages often traveled together in caravans, both for company and for safety, because a lone traveler on that road was far more vulnerable than a group. And as they walked, they sang. These 15 psalms were sung one after another, almost like waypoints marking the stages of the ascent, their rhythm matching the rhythm of footsteps on a long uphill road. Not every family made it there without incident. Historical accounts from the period describe travelers robbed along these very routes, caravans that arrived short a member who had wandered off or fallen behind, and the constant, quiet awareness that safety on this road was never something to be assumed. Parents kept children close. Elders were watched over carefully on the steepest stretches, and still, year after year, these same families made the climb because the reward waiting at the top mattered more than the risk of the road leading there. There was real joy in this journey, the anticipation of the feast, the reunion with extended family who traveled from other towns, the sense of belonging to something larger than any one household. But that joy walked alongside real uncertainty too. Here's what made that first look up the hills complicated for these travelers. From a distance, one hillside looked very much like the next. There was no way to tell, just by looking, which slopes would lead them safely toward worship and which ones held something they'd want to avoid entirely. The landscape didn't announce its own meaning. Every traveler had to decide, before taking a single step further, where they believed their safety would actually come from, because the hills themselves weren't going to tell them. So when the psalmist opens by saying, "I lift up my eyes to the hills, where does my help come from?" He's not admiring scenery. He's asking a real question, with real weight behind it, standing at the base of a landscape that could hold more than one thing at once. That's the same question every one of us is quietly asking by the time we reach the end of a hard day, even if we've never said it out loud. Where does my help actually come from? Because so far, most of what I've looked to hasn't fully answered it. Stay with that question for a moment. Don't rush past it the way we usually do. There's a specific answer coming tonight, not a vague comfort, but something concrete enough to change how you close your eyes tonight. We're going to get there together, one verse at a time. Verse 2 gives us the first piece of the answer, and it's worth noticing exactly how it's worded. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. The psalmist doesn't rush to explain what the hills meant. He simply states where his confidence actually rests, not in what he could see ahead of him, but in the one who made everything he could see and everything he couldn't. That's a small but important shift. He's not solving the mystery of the hills yet. He's telling us where he's standing, while the mystery is still unsolved. That's worth sitting with tonight, because most of us try to do it backwards. We wait until our circumstances make sense before we let ourselves feel settled. We want to understand the hill before we trust the one who made it. But the psalmist models something different, a peace that doesn't wait for clarity, because it was never dependent on clarity to begin with. There's a word tucked into the original Hebrew of this psalm that carries the weight of everything we're about to walk through. The word is shamar. It means to keep, to guard, to watch over, with careful, unbroken attention. The kind of watching a shepherd gives a flock overnight, not glancing over occasionally, but staying fixed, alert, present. This word appears 6 times in this short psalm, 6 times in only 8 verses, which tells you this isn't a small detail tucked into the margins. This is the heartbeat of the entire passage. The Lord is your shamar, not a distant force, not a vague sense of protection floating somewhere out there, a present, attentive, unrelenting watchfulness over your life, specifically tonight in this room, over whatever you brought in here with you. Thank you, Lord, that you are not distant from us. Thank you that you are not one more hill we have to climb hoping to find you waiting at the top, uncertain the whole way up. Thank you that you have already made yourself our help, freely, before we even asked, before we even understood what we were asking for. We come to you now, not searching anymore, but resting in the fact that you have already been found. Think for a moment about those pilgrims setting out on this road. They didn't have the luxury of certainty about what the day ahead held. Every hillside carried the possibility of 2 different outcomes, and there was no way to know in advance which one they'd meet. And yet they sang this song as they climbed, not because the uncertainty wasn't real, but because they had already decided before they needed to know where their help would come from, regardless of what waited up ahead. That's the invitation for you tonight, too. You don't need certainty about tomorrow to have peace tonight. You don't need to know exactly what's waiting on the road ahead of you. The appointment, the conversation, the decision still unmade. You need to know where your help comes from. And once you know that, the uncertainty of the road stops being the thing that defines how you feel walking it. Consider, too, what it means that this word shamar shows up so often in a psalm meant to be sung out loud, together, by an entire traveling community. This wasn't a private assurance whispered to one anxious heart. It was a truth strong enough to be sung by grandparents and children in the same breath, strong enough to carry an entire caravan up a mountain road they couldn't fully see the end of. Whatever your own version of that road looks like tonight, you are not the first, and you will not be the last, to need exactly this kind of watching. We're only beginning to understand what this shamar, this keeping, actually looks like in practice, and what we're about to find is far more specific and far more personal than most people ever realize when they read this psalm quickly and move on. Verse 3 gives us the next piece. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Picture that pilgrim again, walking a narrow mountain path in worn sandals, loose stone, and uneven ground beneath every step. No guardrails, No lighting, nothing but trust and forward motion. One wrong footing could mean a twisted ankle miles from anyone who could help. And yet the psalmist says, with complete confidence, that God will not let that foot slip. Notice what this promise does not say. It doesn't say the road would suddenly become smooth. The road stayed exactly as rocky and uncertain as it always was. The promise was that every single step on that uncertain road was being watched and held by someone who never once looked away, even when the traveler himself couldn't see what was 3 steps ahead. That's the same promise for the uneven ground you've been walking lately. The parts of your life that don't feel steady right now. The relationship you're not sure how to navigate. The decision you keep circling without ever landing anywhere. The health concern you're trying not to think about right before bed. The financial pressure that seems to grow heavier the moment the lights go out. None of that ground has become steady yet, and it might not be steady by morning either, but every step on it, tonight and tomorrow, is being watched by the same God who watched that pilgrim's every step thousands of years ago and more. He who watches over you will not slumber. Here's where it gets specific in a way that would have meant everything to the people who first heard this psalm. In ancient Israel, the watchmen who guarded the city walls worked in shifts. Nehemiah's account of rebuilding Jerusalem's walls describes exactly this arrangement. Guards posted at intervals along the wall, taking turns through the night, because no human being, however devoted, however committed to the task, can stay awake and alert forever. Eventually, every watchman has to hand his post to someone else and close his own eyes. God never hands off his post. There is no shift change with God, no moment where he steps back to rest and leaves you unwatched until he returns to his station. The Hebrew phrasing in verse 4 is emphatic about this. He does not slumber, and he does not sleep. Both words are used, almost as if the psalmist wanted to close every possible loophole a tired mind might imagine. Not even a brief doze, not even the kind of half-sleep where part of you is still aware. Complete, unbroken watchfulness, every hour, without a single exception, without a single shift change, without a single moment where the post sits empty. Let that settle for a moment. Whatever kept you up last night, replaying, rehearsing, bracing, none of that vigilance was ever necessary for your safety. It might have felt necessary. It might have felt like the only way to stay ahead of what could go wrong. But the watchman on duty over your life has never once needed you to stay awake beside him. It can help to notice, gently, how much of your evening routine has quietly become an attempt at self-guarding, checking the locks twice instead of once, scrolling through the news one more time, as though staying informed were the same thing as staying safe, running through tomorrow's schedule again and again, as if enough mental rehearsal could guarantee a smooth outcome. None of these habits are wrong in themselves, but notice what they're often trying to do underneath the surface, trying to manufacture a sense of control over things that were never actually within your control to begin with. Tonight, you get to set that particular effort down. Think about what your own mind has been standing guard over lately. Late at night, when everyone else has gone quiet, maybe it's your children, and whether they're truly all right, even the ones who tell you they're fine. Maybe it's your finances, running the same numbers over and over, as if reviewing them one more time will somehow change the total. Maybe it's a conversation you keep replaying, searching for the version of it where you said the right thing, or where the other person finally understood. Maybe it's simply the vague low hum of feeling responsible for outcomes that were never fully within your control to begin with. Whatever it is, notice this: staying awake over it has never once made you more capable of protecting it. It has only made you more tired. The watching you've been doing was never the thing keeping anyone safe. His watching is, Lord, there is so much of my life I have tried to guard on my own, staying alert long after I should have rested, replaying tomorrow's problems tonight, as if worrying were the same thing as watching. Tonight, I hand that post back to you, where it belonged all along. You do not grow tired watching over me, so I don't have to stay awake, trying to do a job that was never mine to carry. There's one more layer to this that most people miss entirely, and it's where the real weight of tonight's psalm is about to land. Because the psalmist doesn't stop at describing daytime dangers, he specifically names the night, and what he says about it is going to answer the very question this psalm opened with, the one about those hills we still haven't fully explained. Now we come back to the hills and to the question that opened everything tonight. Remember the traveler standing at the base of that ridge, unsure whether what waited above him was safety or danger. That uncertainty wasn't imagined, and it wasn't only about wild animals or difficult terrain. In the ancient world, hilltops carried two very specific and very different reputations at the same time. Some of those hillsides were the sites of Israel's high places, altars where false gods were worshipped, where people believed spiritual power lived in the elevation itself, in the stone beneath their feet, in the land they were standing on. A traveler climbing toward the wrong hill might find himself surrounded by exactly the kind of spiritual danger the psalm was written to guard against. And some of those same hillsides, the very same slopes, were simply where bandits hid, waiting for pilgrims who had grown separated from their group, or worn down enough by the journey to become an easy target. So when the psalmist looks up and asks where his help comes from, he's asking a question with real, layered danger folded into it. The hills in front of him could be the very thing that harmed him, spiritually, in the form of false worship, or physically, in the form of an ambush. And there was no way, standing at the bottom, to know which hill was which. And here is what almost no one ever notices about the structure of this psalm. The answer isn't found by climbing higher or by carefully avoiding certain hills and trusting others. The answer is found by realizing that his help was never actually located in the hills at all. Not the safe-looking ones and not the dangerous ones. It was in the one who made all of them and who was already watching him just as closely on the road below as any false god was ever imagined to watch from above. This is the truth this whole prayer has been walking toward, a peace you haven't felt yet, because so many of us have been looking for it in the wrong place without knowing it. The wrong place isn't always an obviously bad place. Sometimes it's a good habit, a healthy routine, a loving relationship, a well-managed schedule, good hills, even beautiful ones, But if you're asking any created thing to be your ultimate keeper, to be the source your safety finally rests on, you're standing exactly where that traveler stood at the base of an unmarked hillside, unsure whether what you're looking to will hold you up or let you fall. Your help was never meant to come from the hill. However good the hill might be, it comes from the one who made it, and who has never once needed the hill to be trustworthy in order to be trustworthy himself. Now watch how specifically God answers the deepest version of this fear, because he doesn't leave it at a general promise. Verse 6 says, "The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night." This detail is easy to skim past, but it wasn't random. In the ancient Near East, there was a real and widespread fear surrounding moonlight, a belief that exposure to the moon at night could cause illness, confusion, even madness. It's where our word lunatic comes from, rooted in luna, the Latin word for moon. People genuinely feared what the darkness and what hung visibly in it might do to them while they slept unguarded and unaware. Into that specific, ancient, deeply personal fear, God gives an equally specific, personal promise. Not the sun, not the moon, nothing that rises or sets over you day or night has the power to reach you outside of his watchfulness. There's a related promise tucked into another psalm, worth bringing in here for a moment. Psalm 127 says, "Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain." Even the most devoted human watchman, the one who never once falls asleep on duty, cannot actually guard a city on his own. His watching only matters because God's watching stands behind it. That's true of every hill you've ever climbed looking for safety too. Whatever kept you safe up to this point in your life, God was the reason it held. Jesus said something remarkably similar centuries later, standing on a hillside of his own, teaching a crowd who carried the same worries you're carrying tonight. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. That's not a dismissal of your concerns. It's an invitation to hand tomorrow's hill to the same keeper who has already proven himself faithful with every hill behind you. There's something freeing in realizing that this tension between safety and danger, this not knowing that defined the pilgrim's road, was never actually meant to be resolved by better information. You will not get to the end of tonight's prayer with a clearer read on every hill still ahead of you. Some of what worries you may still be genuinely uncertain by morning, by next week, by next month. The peace being offered here was never contingent on the uncertainty disappearing. It was contingent on knowing with settled confidence who was walking that uncertain ground with you the entire time. So ask yourself honestly for a moment, what hill have you been staring up at, unsure whether it holds safety or danger? What decision, what relationship, what outcome have you been trying to read from a distance, the way that traveler tried to read the slopes ahead of him? You don't have to solve it tonight. You don't even have to know which kind of hill it is. You only have to know who made it and who has never once stopped watching over you while you stood there trying to figure it out. Say his name over that hill right now, quietly, in your own heart, if it helps. Not as a demand for an answer tonight, but simply as an acknowledgement of where your help has actually been standing this whole time. Not on the hillside itself, but beside you, at the base of it. closer than the uncertainty ever was. Lord, you are answering a fear tonight that is older than we are and more personal than we usually admit out loud. We have looked to so many hills to be our shelter, some of them good, some of them not, but none of them ever meant to be the source. Tonight we lay that searching down completely. Our help was never anywhere but with you, and it has been with us the entire time we were looking somewhere else for it. This is the turning point of tonight's prayer. Everything before this was preparation. Everything after this is response. Because once you actually know where your help comes from, not as an idea, but as a settled certainty, the only thing left to do is bring him everything you've been carrying up your own hill, alone, for far too long. Lord, I bring you tonight what I've been trying to guard by myself, the fear about my health that I keep pushing down during the day so I can function, the tension in my home that I don't know how to resolve, no matter how many times I've tried, the financial pressure that shows up the moment the lights go out and the house goes quiet, the child I love so much, it terrifies me, whom I cannot watch over every hour the way you already do. I stop climbing toward these things as if they could be my keeper. You are my keeper. You have been the whole time, even on the nights I forgot to notice. We've reached the center of tonight's psalm and the center of tonight's prayer. The mystery of the hills has been answered, but there's one more layer still ahead of us. A contrast the psalmist makes between what everyone around him was reaching for on that road and what he chose to ask for instead. Here's something worth sitting with. The pilgrims walking that road toward Jerusalem weren't only walking toward worship in some abstract, spiritual sense. Many of them were walking toward the same things we're all still reaching for right now. Provision for their families, safety for the long journey home, good harvests, healthy children, protection from enemies, both seen and unseen. They wanted exactly what you want, a life that holds together, a future that isn't defined by fear of what the next hill might hold. And notice what the psalmist doesn't pray for. He doesn't pray for the removal of every hill on the road ahead. He doesn't ask God to flatten the terrain or guarantee an easy, uneventful journey from here to the temple gates. He asks for something different, something deeper, for the keeper himself to walk the road with him, watching every single step. Regardless of what that road turns out to contain, that's a meaningful distinction for you tonight. You may still have hills ahead of you tomorrow, hard conversations you haven't had yet, uncertain outcomes still unfolding, situations that haven't resolved the way you hoped they would by now. Tonight's prayer was never a promise that the road flattens out by morning. It's a promise that the one walking it with you never once looks away, no matter what shape the road takes. Verses 7 and 8 bring this to its fullest expression. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore, both now and forevermore. Not just tonight, not just this hard season you happen to be walking through right now, forevermore. Whatever chapter of your life feels unfinished right now, however uncertain the road ahead genuinely looks from where you're standing, it is not outside the reach of that same shamar. that same unbroken watchfulness that has kept every single step you've already taken to get here. Think about your coming and going for a moment, not in the abstract, but specifically, concretely, the way the psalmist meant it. The drive to work tomorrow morning, merging into traffic half awake, wondering if today will finally be the day something goes wrong. The conversation you've been dreading and putting off, the one where you'll have to say the hard thing out loud, face to face, without knowing how it will be received. The appointment sitting on your calendar that you haven't told anyone you're nervous about. The one you keep pretending not to think about until it's actually time to go. The decision you still haven't made. The one you keep circling back to at night because daylight never seems to give you enough clarity to settle it. Whether to take the job, whether to have the conversation, whether to stay, or whether to finally go. Every one of those movements, every place you'll walk into and out of in the coming days is already covered by this promise. Not because the outcome is guaranteed to be easy or comfortable, but because you were never meant to walk into any of it unwatched, unaccompanied, carrying it entirely on your own. There's a reason the psalmist paired these two words together, coming and going, rather than simply saying your life in general terms. Coming and going covers the transitions, the in-between moments that often go unprayed for entirely. We tend to pray over the big named events, the surgery, the interview, the difficult meeting circled on the calendar. We rarely think to pray over the drive there, over the walk from the parking lot to the door, over the moment right before we knock, or right before we pick up the phone. But the psalmist's promise doesn't skip those moments. It covers all of it, the going out and the coming in, the beginnings and the endings, and every ordinary step in between that we never thought to bring before God at all. There's something worth noticing in how ordinary most of a pilgrim's actual journey was. Long stretches of walking with nothing dramatic happening at all. Just footsteps, dust, conversation with fellow travelers, the sun moving slowly across the sky. The danger, when it came, was the exception, not the rule. Most of the road was simply road, and this promise covered every part of it equally, not just the moments of visible risk, but the long, unremarkable stretches in between, the ones that made up the overwhelming majority of the journey. Your own life likely looks the same way. Most of your coming and going is unremarkable too. The errands, the routines, the ordinary hours that don't make it into any story you'd tell someone later. All of it is watched over just as closely as the hard parts. Lord, watch over my coming and going tomorrow. Watch over the ordinary moments I won't even think to pray about. The drive, the meeting, the phone call I'm not looking forward to making. Watch over the bigger movements too. The decision I'm still weighing, the relationship I'm trying to repair, the season I'm not sure how to walk through or how long it's going to last. You have already watched over every step that brought me safely to tonight. I trust you now with the steps that are still ahead of me, the ones I can't see yet from here. There's a quiet kind of rest available in this that has nothing to do with your circumstances actually resolving by morning. It has everything to do with knowing exactly who is walking beside you while they don't. That's the peace this whole psalm has been leading you toward. Not the absence of hills, but the presence of a keeper who was never once distracted by them. We've laid down the searching. We've named what those hills really represented and found that our help was never in them at all. We've brought him the coming and going we still can't fully see. Now there is only one thing left to do tonight, and it's the part that turns everything we've prayed into something you can actually carry with you into sleep. Everything we've walked through tonight comes down to one simple movement now: letting go. Not letting go of the people or the responsibilities that genuinely matter to you. Letting go of the belief that you have to be the one holding it all together while you sleep. That job was never yours to begin with. It belongs to the one who does not slumber, who has never once needed your help staying awake. Lord, I release tonight what was never mine to carry alone. I stop trying to be the watchman over things you already watch far better than I ever could. I trust you with my family while I close my eyes tonight. I trust you with my health, my finances, my unfinished decisions, my unanswered questions. I trust you with tomorrow, which I cannot see clearly from here, because you already do, completely. This is what the pilgrims understood by the time they finally reached the top of that road. Picture the moment they crested the final rise and saw the temple ahead of them, walls catching the light, the long climb finally behind them, family and neighbors gathered close, the sound of celebration already rising from those who had arrived before them. The hills didn't stop being hills. The uncertainty of the terrain didn't disappear the moment they arrived at the gates, but they walked through those gates differently than they would have otherwise, because they had already settled where their help came from before they ever took the first step of the climb. That same settling is available to you right now in this room at the end of this particular day, whether or not your own arrival feels anywhere close yet. There's an old tradition connected to this moment worth knowing. Some historians believe that as pilgrims caught their first glimpse of Jerusalem's walls after days of climbing, a kind of collective relief would move through the group. The specific relief of uncertainty finally giving way to arrival, danger finally giving way to safety, the unknown hillside finally giving way to solid, familiar ground. That relief wasn't earned by the pilgrims' own strength, getting them there. It was the natural response to realizing they had been kept the entire way, even through the stretches of road where they couldn't see what was coming next. You don't have to wait for your own version of that moment, some future circumstance finally resolving, some hillside finally proving safe, to feel a measure of that same relief tonight. The keeping was already happening this whole time, on every step of your own road. Whether or not you noticed it as it happened, let this be the last thing your mind holds on to as your body settles deeper into rest tonight. Whatever felt unfinished today does not get to follow you into tomorrow uninvited. It has been handed to someone who is already awake, already watching, already working on your behalf, while you finally close your eyes and let go. Whatever anguish walked in the door with you tonight, it does not belong to tomorrow morning. Tomorrow gets a fresh mercy, new and untouched by what tonight cost you. That is not wishful thinking, and it is not a comforting phrase with nothing behind it. It is the same faithfulness that watched over every pilgrim who ever sang this psalm on their way home from Jerusalem. And it is the same faithfulness watching over you right now, in this exact room, at this exact hour. May the Lord bless you and keep you tonight, exactly as He kept every traveler who ever looked up at an unmarked hillside and wondered where their help would come from. May His face shine on you, even in the dark of this room. May He grant you a peace that has nothing to do with how settled your circumstances currently are, and everything to do with how completely He is watching over you while you rest. You do not have to stay alert tonight. You do not have to keep climbing toward an answer you've already been given. Your help was never in the hills, however good or however threatening they looked from where you stood. It has been beside you this entire time. Let that truth settle into your body now, the way warmth settles into cold hands held near a fire. You don't have to hold on to it tightly or repeat it to yourself over and over to make it true. It's already true. It was true this morning when you woke up unsettled. It was true this afternoon when the day felt heavier than you expected. It's true right now, in this exact moment, as your eyes grow heavier and your thoughts begin to slow. Before you drift off completely, let's name something plainly, so there's no mistaking what tonight actually gave you. You came to this prayer carrying a search for a peace you hadn't felt yet, and that peace isn't waiting somewhere further down the road, in some future circumstance that still has to change first. It's already here, in this room, right now, not because anything about your situation shifted while you listened, but because you now know, clearly and specifically, who never stopped watching over you, even when you didn't know where to look. That was the promise this prayer opened with. That promise has been kept. Notice, too, what didn't have to happen for that to be true. Your circumstances didn't need to resolve. The hill you've been staring up at didn't need to reveal itself as safe. Nothing outside of you needed to change at all. The peace arrived the moment you stopped looking to the hill and started resting in the one who made it. And that shift already happened tonight, somewhere in the quiet. Whether you notice the exact moment it occurred or not, let's speak this one more time, together, as your final act of trust tonight. Say this quietly in your heart, or out loud if you're able. Tonight, I stop looking to the hills for what only you can give me. I trust that you watch over my coming and going, both now and forevermore. I release what I cannot carry, and I rest in the truth that you never sleep, so I finally can. In Jesus' name, Amen. Let those words be the last thing carrying you towards sleep tonight, not the searching that brought you here, but the truth that's been waiting for you the entire time you were looking somewhere else. If you're new here, welcome. Subscribe to Stillwater Grace and turn on the bell so you never miss our morning and evening prayers together. Leave your prayer request in the comments below and let us know where you're watching from. Each place named becomes part of this family, one voice joining another, all resting beside the same still waters. When you read someone else's request, take a moment to pray for them too. That's what this family does. We carry each other before God, and if someone in your life needs to hear this today, send this to them. It could be exactly what they were waiting for. May the Lord keep you in His peace. May He lead you gently beside still waters. We'll meet here again for the next prayer